inquiry showed once again that the allegations against him have zero corroboration, none. Instead, the claims are refuted, denied by everyone who was interviewed. Now, the Democratic witch hunt is officially over. Their delay tactics have hit a dead end, but the crybaby smear merchants on the left, they're still grandstanding. The resistance holding protests on Capitol Hill. Senate Democrats bashing the FBI tonight in their investigation. Democrats across America, well, they're extremely worried because their shameful attempts to ruin a man's life for political gain have now been exposed. And we're just 33 days away from the important midterm elections. And what do we see in the polling tonight? Republican candidates are now surging. Truth, justice, common sense, it might prevail after all. And Judge Kavanaugh is once again coming to his own defense in a brand new op-ed just released. Now sit tight, buckle up. It's time for our breaking news, busy news night opening monologue. All right, the 7th FBI background check into Judge Kavanaugh is finished. It's wrapped. And now a confirmation vote for Judge Brett Kavanaugh could come as early as Saturday. President Trump, he's looking forward to this vote.
Democrats have been trying to destroy Judge Brett Kavanaugh since the very first second he was announced. And he was announced for one simple reason. He is an incredible intellect, an incredible person, an incredible talent. He's been an incredible judge because they know that Judge Kavanaugh will protect, uphold, and defend the Constitution of the United States as written.
And tonight, many U.S. senators, they are on the fence, but they're responding positively to today's FBI's report. According to Senator Jeff Flake, a swing vote, the FBI's report revealed zero new evidence against Kavanaugh. Senator Collins of Maine, another crucial swing vote, praised the investigation for being very thorough. Here is the bottom line. If both Flake and Collins vote in favor of Judge Kavanaugh, he will be a Supreme Court justice. And today, at a very fiery press conference, Senate Republicans had this to say about the impending vote and this horrific process. Take a look.
What we know for sure is the FBI report did not corroborate any of the allegations against Judge Kavanaugh.
This is the 87th day. That's 3 weeks longer than the average of the last 3 or 4 nominees to the Supreme Court. So don't tell me we haven't spent enough time. What I've been dealing with since July the 10th, the downhill slope that Schumer's put us on, is really dealing with a demolition derby. And they just about destroyed a good person to be on the Supreme Court.
A vote against Judge Kavanaugh tomorrow will be a vote for abusing the confirmation process and a good person. And it will be a vote for the shameful intimidation tactics that have been employed as part of an orchestrated smear campaign. This is a search and destroy mission. This is not a search for the truth.
And tonight, it is important to remember, more documentation was provided to the Senate Judiciary Committee than any other Supreme Court nominee in history. And so far, this nomination process is the third longest in the past 50 years. But tonight, the smear merchants on the left are in full-on freak-out mode. Senate Democrats all demanded an FBI investigation to be done quickly with limited scope. Just last week, they're now trashing that very same FBI investigation. New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez, he called it a BS investigation on Twitter. Now, naturally, the whining continued when there's a television camera in front of these, well, publicity-hungry Democrats. Take a look.
We Democrats had many fears that this would be an all too limited process that would constrain the FBI from getting the facts. Having received a thorough briefing a few minutes ago, our fears have been realized.
This set of interviews is, at best, most charitably, woefully incomplete. To put it bluntly, it smacks of a whitewash, even a cover-up.
In your view, is this a fulsome and credible investigation?
It's obviously a cover-up. They're making a mockery of the constitutional requirement that the Senate provide its advice and consent.
That report, if that's an investigation, is a investigation.
Every one of these Democrats were against Judge Kavanaugh or anybody that President Trump would have nominated to the court. Now, in this program, while we have exposed the few top echelon in the FBI that did abuse their power, we have always made a point, almost on a nightly basis, to stand up for the rank and the file FBI agents, field agents, you know, the ones that risk their lives like other law enforcement for us every single day, including those that conducted the supplemental background check. The FBI acted in a fair, independent manner. Some on the left don't like the results. The calls for a more thorough investigation is beyond absurd. What is the FBI supposed to do? We don't have a location to investigate, no date to investigate. There's no physical evidence, there's no forensic evidence, and we don't even know the day of the week. And every single person that Professor Ford listed to corroborate her story denied any knowledge of her claims. And the one eyewitness that she listed totally refuted her claim. Even her longtime friend had no idea what she was talking about. They all refuted her claims under penalty of perjury, now twice. The other allegations against Kavanaugh, they're even more shaky. The second accuser making decades-old claims that Kavanaugh had exposed himself at a freshman in college at a party. Well, she wasn't even sure that Kavanaugh was the perpetrator. Even the New York Times wouldn't publish her claims, and they searched far and wide for evidence to corroborate her story. They found nothing except that she had been making calls to other Yale classmates at the time saying, "I'm not sure it's him. Do you remember?" And the third accuser making systematic drugging, gang rape allegations against teenage girls. And her story has changed many times in about a week. She's facing serious credibility issues, and of course represented by Michael Avenatti, Lawyer of the Year. None of these allegations have dates, locations, witnesses, evidence, corroboration of any kind of any of these claims. So do Democrats really expect the FBI to magically find decades-old evidence proving that Kavanaugh was an evil sexual predator, a systemic gang rapist, somebody that drugged teenage girls? They really believe the American people would suspend all decency, all common sense, and believe that a man with an impeccable 40-year track record was really secretly a monster in his youth and did this almost on a weekly basis? In reality, this has always been about politics and power, a delay tactic, a transparent attempt to literally ruin a man's life, destroy his family because they lost an election and they want the power. This has become a national disgrace. And in some cases, these political tactics worked. Democratic Senator from North Dakota, Heidi Heitkamp, by the way, now down 11 in the latest poll, claimed to be an independent voice for the people of North Dakota. Tonight, we know she's nothing more than a shill for Schumer and the Democratic Party. Now, I guess she assumes she's not getting reelected, so she's trashing the will of her own constituents and voting no. Then you got Joe Donnelly, Indiana, also a no vote. By the way, he's up for re-election in 33 days. By the way, Indiana voters, you can send him a message and get out and vote. Now we're seeing the Democratic Party play, literally, their playbook roll out in full force. Everything that we have chronicled on a regular basis on this show, as we now begin our 23rd year on the Fox News channel, 30 in radio. There's now a big crescendo into one of the most despicable displays than anything we have ever witnessed. And I warned you, they're going to try and bore Kavanaugh or whoever the president picked, and they'll bring back the Clarence Thomas tactics. The smear machine of the left is in full gear. They know no bounds. And some on the left are actually claiming, well, okay, our allegations didn't work. Let's go after Judge Kavanaugh's temperament. That might be disqualifying. You're saying he was just too aggressive when defending himself against false allegations of drugging and gang raping teenage girls. Ask yourself this question. Okay, how would you react if you were falsely accused of rape, of drugging teenage girls? Happened almost on a every weekend basis. Gang raping them, boys lining up in the halls. How would you react? What is the appropriate reaction? How would you react if senators were on national TV calling you evil, comparing you to Bill Cosby, suggesting that you're guilty of serious crimes you never committed? Far left retired Justice John Paul Stevens weighing in, oh, this should disqualify him from becoming a justice. This is the same radical former Supreme Court justice who doesn't believe in the Constitution. He once demanded the Second Amendment be repealed and wrote that the election of George W. Bush violated our Constitution. And just moments ago, Judge Kavanaugh, in an op-ed just released for the Wall Street Journal, he eloquently defended himself on the eve of what will be a historic vote. This is a tipping point for this country. He talked about these ridiculous allegations. He wrote, quote, after all those meetings and after my initial hearing concluded, I was subjected to wrongful, sometimes vicious allegations. My time in high school and college, more than 30 years ago, has been ridiculously distorted. My wife, my daughters have faced vile and violent threats. And against that backdrop, I testified before the Judiciary Committee last Thursday to defend my family, my good name, my lifetime of public service. My hearing testimony was forceful and passionate. That is because I forcefully and passionately denied the allegations against me. He continued, yeah, I was very emotional last Thursday, more so than I've ever been. I might have been too emotional at times. Well, I know that my tone was sharp. I said a few things I should not have said. He did apologize once in the hearings. I hope everyone can understand that I was there as a son, a husband, a dad, and I testified with 5 people foremost in my mind: my mom, my dad, my wife, and most of all, my 2 daughters. Now, sadly, this kind of common sense and logic and decency from Judge Kavanaugh, it means nothing to the left. How would you respond? By the way, it means nothing to their cohorts, their friends in the mainstream media. You got all the people on the left whining, crying, complaining, those that believe in guilt by accusation, just doing what they do best today, feigning outrage. By the way, when did any of these people on the Judiciary Committee, the snowflakes in the floor of the Senate being taken out all day, did they ever protest Bill Clinton like this? Did they ever stand up for Juanita Broderick, Kathleen Willey, Paula Jones? Oh, that's right, Dianne Feinstein, who recommended Deborah Katz. Well, Deborah Katz didn't believe Paula Jones. So it was only 10 or 12 minutes. So you have a lot of hypocrisy, feigned, selective moral outrage. And today you have far-left protesters erupting all over Capitol Hill. And as you can imagine, emotions were running high. Logic was running very low. We even sent our own Griff Jenkins down in the middle of all this, in the middle of the mob, asking these people what they thought about due process, the presumption of innocence, the rule of law. The answers will stun you. Take a look.
This is a job interview. There's no presumption of innocence in a job interview.
Do you believe that he was given a fair chance in his confirmation?
A fair chance? This man is sitting amongst friends of his.
Clearly there has been enough allegations swirling around that we know that this job application needs to be denied.
The public is the people who should be making decisions about what they need and what they deserve, not some rich white man who doesn't give a about us.
In my view, Judge Kavanaugh made it pretty clear that he does not have the judicial temperament. He believes the Supreme Court is just one more political football. That's not what the Supreme Court is about. And I think in that hearing, Judge Kavanaugh disqualified himself.
No presumption of innocence, no due process. Well, let me tell you, if that's the case, there's no country, there's no Constitution. It's sad, it's shocking, and it's frankly beyond chilling. Now, coming up, we're going to have a lot more of Griff, including his full interview with Senator Elizabeth Warren. Now, today, she led this horde of demonstrators demanding that Kavanaugh's life and reputation continue to be destroyed without these fundamental beliefs that we as Americans should all share, regardless of political orientation. You have to have some corroboration. There's got to be some evidence, some presumption of innocence. The only good news tonight is the left, well, they've officially been exposed to the American people. See those protesters? You're looking at the modern, radical, left Democratic Party and the media, the party of double standards, the party of smears, lies, character assassination, family bludgeoning with no plans to offer the hardworking, law-abiding, tax-paying citizens You, the American people who make this country the single greatest, best, last great hope for man on this earth. Look what they do. The people, that's not the people of this country. That is one party, though, sadly, that has abandoned any sense of fundamental decency, fairness, and common sense. Now, thankfully, you, the American people, it has now awoken a lot of people in this country. Look at this Rasmussen poll on President Trump. It's his highest approval rating ever, according to an NPR poll of all places. Remember the Democratic enthusiasm, blue wave edge that they had? It's totally evaporated today. At this hour, we're seeing the chaos, the mayhem, the madness, the insanity. You got the leaders of the Democratic Party, a full-on assault on the integrity of the FBI. They've so convinced their party activists about guilt upon accusation that that's fine in America. No due process is fine in America. No presumption of innocence is fine. How does that work for you and your family in your life? Slander, smear, character assassination, that's one party in America today. Great job, Dianne Feinstein, Chucky Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters. Do you want them in power in 33 days? Now the American people, now the people that they're leading, causing the pandemonium in our nation's capital because their so-called leaders convinced them that guilt by accusation is okay, that defining somebody as a rapist, a gang rapist, a drugger of teenage girls without cooperation in America is okay. Well, those are the tactics of today's radical Democratic Party. This is why, for years, I have pointed this out on the show. This happens every 2 and 4 years, and now with every Supreme Court appointment, nearly every one. They disseminated salacious lies about President Trump before and after the election. They advanced bizarre conspiracy theories that one candidate actually paid for. Hookers urinating in beds. They talk about it as if it's truth. They disseminate it as propaganda before elections. They do it to start up, witch hunt investigations and conspiracies. They call people racist, sexist, misogynist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic. That's Republicans, conservatives want dirty air and water. We drink the water and breathe the air. They want children to die. Oh, if you're only going to raise Medicare 7% a year, that means you want to throw your own grandmother off the cliff. We hear it every 2 and 4 years. And when these vile accusations of drugging, gang raping teenage girls without evidence, that's not to be believed by the FBI. These are the consequences. That's the reaction. Is this the party you want in power? You want to elect these people in 33 days? Look at your screen. High drama tonight with these 4 senators. They appear to hold the keys to the Kavanaugh vote. Are they going to give in to this new America of guilt by accusation, lying, smearing, slander, character bludgeoning of the last 17 days? Forget the last 40 years of this man's life. No corroboration. Are they going to give in to this? Has any of this had any impact on those 4 senators? Do they believe in the presumption of innocence? That's their question tonight. Do they believe in due process, the rule of law? Do they have common sense and decency? Do they believe that you've got to have some corroboration? Do they believe in our great Constitution? Or are they going to reward forever the slanderous tactics of the hard left that only want power? Here with reaction, Fox News investigative reporter Sarah Carter, the author of The Deep State, How an Army of Bureaucrats Protected Barack Obama, is working to destroy the Trump agenda. Fox News contributor Jason Chaffetz. Sarah, let's begin with you. You saw this unfold today. It has now been building. Looks like it comes down to 3 Republicans, Murkowski, Collins, and Flake, and maybe Manchin, a Democrat, but I don't think he'll vote for Kavanaugh unless the Republicans have the votes already.
That's right. Nobody wants to take a guess, Sean, as to what they're going to do. I have been talking to people, though, however, on the Hill, and some of them believe that Susan Collins may vote to pass confirmation for Kavanaugh as well as Manchin. Manchin's up there. I think that one of the interesting things about Manchin is he's in West Virginia. West Virginia, where there's a lot of support for President Trump. He's sometimes called a Trump Democrat. So I think that's what they're going to see here. Look, Sean, what we're hearing today, what we've seen over this last week, the op-ed that was written by Kavanaugh, I can't believe he didn't go further. Can you imagine going home to your daughters and having to explain to your young daughters why they're calling you a gang rapist? why people are shredding your name, your good name that you spent over 30 years building, pulling out stories that aren't even true. The American people are not dumb, Sean. The American people see what is happening here, and now they see the rise of this very frightening left movement.
Congressman, without any corroboration on any of these charges, I don't believe it's a profile in courage for these 4 senators to say he's had a 40-year track record versus 17 days of smears. Everybody else that seems to have known him and know him say just the opposite. Are they going to give in to these tactics? Because if they do, I would argue America's forever changed for the worse.
I hope that 3 of the 4, I think, will actually get there. I'm not so sure about Murkowski, but I got to tell you, that Kavanaugh family, they've taken every hit, every cheap shot, every blow, and they are the toughest family that I know of, because everything that's been thrown at them has been so unfair. And I'm encouraged by what Colin said today. I was encouraged by what Jeff Flake said. He's on the record as passing him out of committee, and I think he'll hopefully get there. And I think
Manchin, he got what he wanted,
if he wants to have any sense of
decency, the FBI corroborating what the
What?
Senate Judiciary Investigative Committee found themselves. And there's nothing else to investigate except talking to the 4 people. We don't know where it happened, when it happened, what day of the week it happened. We don't know. There's no forensics in this case.
There's just nothing there, Sean.
There's been 7
when you talk to people, there's
investigations.
nothing there. 7 investigations piled high, hundreds of pages. There is nothing there to find, except we have to stand our ground here. And I'm talking as a journalist here, but also as an American. You are innocent until proven guilty. They should not be allowed, people should not be allowed to slander another person with no evidence, no corroboration, and try to make that stick. That does not happen in the United States of America. That happens in countries like Russia
we'll find out
and other
by
places.
Saturday at 5 p.m., won't we, Congressman?
Yes, I think ultimately he gets 53 votes and he's the next justice on the Supreme Court.
How many votes?
53.
Okay. Sarah, what do you say?
I am in total agreement. I'm kind of iffy on one of them, but I'd say 52 for sure, 53 maybe.
All right, we'll see. Thank you both. When we come back, Greg Jarrett, Kimberly Strassel, Monica Crowley. We have the latest news on the liberal activism caused by liberal leaders. Straight ahead.
I would never use the word fake news. I consider you folks policemen for our democratic system of government. But I want to show you where some of you have bias. I've had demonstrators in my office for 2 weeks now, both for Kavanaugh and against Kavanaugh. And one time, the people that were for Kavanaugh wanted to be interviewed. And they said, we're only interested in interviewing people against Kavanaugh. Now, that's a bias that none of you should be proud of.
Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley criticizing the liberal media for their shameful coverage of the Kavanaugh nomination. As always, usually one-sided. Here with more reaction, Wall Street Journal's columnist Kimberly Strassel, senior fellow at the London Center for Policy Research, Monica Crowley, author of the New York Times #1 bestseller, The Russia Hoax, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. Kimberly, let me start with you. It's either going to be one way or the other. It's either going to be 49 or 52. That's my guess. I don't think there's going to be any middle ground here.
No, I think that's probably right. And to go to your topic, we know which side the media is rooting for. And this is really disturbing to those of us who started on the news side. Look, this used to be really simple, Sean. There was a divide between opinion and news side reporters. I'm very clear. Everything I write, I'm an opinion writer. It is delineated in the newspaper as opinion. But on the news side, so many organizations, they don't abide by that rule anymore. And they are out there, and it's undercutting the journalism industry, which already is one of the least trusted industries out there. But they're, through omission, through misrepresenting of facts, they have chosen a side, and it does not reflect well on anybody.
They have more than chosen a side, Greg Jarrett. They are now advocates themselves of guilt by accusation. They are not telling their audiences about the lack of corroboration in every case. I'm a talk show host. I am a conservative. As a talk show host, sometimes we do straight news. We break news. We do investigative reporting. You've been part of our investigative team. Right. Other times I give strong opinion. I give opening monologues. We're the whole newspaper, but they say they're the news division. and they're not. We do everything. We admit it up front, like Kimberly said. They don't admit any. They claim to be something they're not.
There is no shortage of media malpractice in the age of Trump, and this is a perfect example. The mainstream media became witting, willing accessories to character assassination. They demonized Kavanaugh, corroborating evidence be damned. They drove this constant narrative that guilt should be assumed and presumed, and that an accuser should never even be questioned, much less doubted. They attacked at every turn, Kavanaugh's temperament. They attacked his yearbook. They attacked his denial. And it was really a shameful example of how the media has become overwhelmed by its own bias.
Yeah, and Monica, I meant 48 or 52, not 49. My math was off slightly. But to me, this is no profile in courage. Because if there's no corroboration on any case, and just the opposite, the case of Professor Ford, she identified an eyewitness to the alleged crime, which she was talking about. The eyewitness says it didn't happen. Why do so many people from the beginning, they said, we believe her? Well, there's no presumption of innocence there. There's no due process. They made up their mind without hearing anything. And then they're literally, hemming and hawing at the FBI tonight. What was the FBI supposed to do beyond that which they did?
Well, and that's exactly what the Democrats, the left, and the media professed that they wanted, right? A full, thorough FBI investigation. Then they got one, and of course, that wasn't enough. Sean, talking about the press, most of the mainstream press has been biased to the left for decades. We've known that. But what's different in the Trump era is the level and intensity of their advocacy and activism. So all of the facts that you just laid out there about Dr. Ford's testimony, the lack of corroboration and unsubstantiation, very little of that has been reported in the mainstream press, because now the press is an active and proactive member of the left, and the left is at war for the future of the country. They're at war with the Constitution, free market economics, individual liberty, all of the things that Judge Kavanaugh will fight for as a justice on the Supreme Court. Therefore, he must be destroyed, and the press is actively doing that.
Why, Kimberly, they've had all day now to look at the FBI report. Why are we still waiting to hear from Murkowski, Collins, Flake, and Manchin?
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice if they declared on this so that we could start to put this episode behind us. Look, I think that they, for the same reasons that they wanted this FBI investigation, it provided them some additional cover to say that everything has been vetted. They're going to make us wait, I think, until tomorrow morning. Look, almost every other senator has declared.
Well, we'll know at 10:30. Do you think that vote will be the indicator?
Well, it will be, because, look, that's a cloture vote. Historically, every time that you have that particular vote, that is the indicator. If you vote to move forward, it's essentially a vote for the nominee. Yeah. Now, historically as well, that usually meant you immediately had a final vote. I would wager Democrats are going to try to prolong it as long as they could so their protesters can keep going.
Prediction, Kimberly, what do you say?
I'm hopeful. I think that he will be confirmed.
Greg Jarrett, how's this coming down, and why are they waiting?
Well, Jeff Flake wins the Charlie Brown Wishy-Washy Award, so, there's no predicting that. Murkowski and Collins, they don't have the courage. They're waiting to see what the other one does. So who knows?
What do you think, Monica?
I say he gets confirmed by the Clarence Thomas split, 52-48.
All right. Thank you all for being with us. I hope, for the sake of fairness and due process, that equal justice under the law and the presumption of innocence prevails here. When we come back, more of Griff Jenkins, his exclusive reporting. He went in the middle of the mob earlier today in these protests. We have Dr. Sebastian Gorka, Dan Bongino there next as we continue to monitor where will this go. Judge Kavanaugh writing in the Wall Street Journal, I am an independent, impartial judge, this very evening. More next. Earlier today, our own Griff Jenkins spoke with a lot of these crazy protesters at the anti-Kavanaugh rally. By the way, you can really thank Chuck and Nancy and Maxine Waters and Michael Avenatti for this bizarre, happening earlier today.
Do you feel that he was afforded the presumption of innocence?
This is a job interview, and the question is about the evidence that's presented and the credibility of her claim.
Do you believe that Judge Kavanaugh had presumption of innocence, got a fair shake in the hearing?
No. I think that he didn't give himself a fair share because he lied the entire time.
Do you believe Judge Kavanaugh was given the presumption of innocence?
Is this a court of law?
Why do you believe Judge Kavanaugh shouldn't be confirmed?
I feel like he lied multiple times, and he acted crazy.
Clearly there has been enough allegations swirling around that we know that this job application needs to be denied.
Judge Kavanaugh wasn't given his fair presumption of innocence.
Capable of judging.
So this I think that Judge Kavanaugh
FBI investigation
refused the investigation, right? He did not want it.
So I want you to join with me
that
right
is
now,
not
Ms.
the behavior of someone
It's
who
a shanda.
understands, like that as a man, it is in his benefit and the country's benefit to say, let's discover the truth.
Do you believe that he was given a fair chance in his confirmation?
A fair chance? This man is sitting amongst friends of his.
The public is the people who should be making decisions about what they need and what they deserve, not some rich white man who doesn't give a about us.
Because there are allegations of sexual assault against him that quite likely are true. I believe they are true, but it hasn't been proven yet one way or the other.
This is a job interview. There's no presumption of innocence in a job interview.
And in your mind, Judge Kavanaugh failed that?
Absolutely, he failed the job interview.
This is nothing short of a desperate grab by the old, white, male, rich patriarchy.
In my view, Judge Kavanaugh made it pretty clear that he does not have the judicial temperament. He believes the Supreme Court is just one more political football. That's not what the Supreme Court is about. And I think in that hearing, Judge Kavanaugh disqualified himself.
No presumption of innocence. This confirms everything you need to know about the party of Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Maxine Waters, Michael Avenatti. Here with reaction, author of the book Why We Fight, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, author of the book Spygate, former Secret Service agent, NRA TV contributor Dan Bongino. Dr. Gorka, will begin with you. Maybe in many ways, regardless of the outcome of the vote, maybe the American people, and I think these polls showed tonight, see what there is one party that doesn't believe in our Constitution. Basic, fundamental, generational principles that have served us well. They will throw all of that to the wind. Guilt by accusation, mob rule seems to rule the day.
Sean, as the child of parents who suffered as children and then adults under fascism and then communism, I am deadly serious when I say it's people like the people you just showed being interviewed that make dictatorships possible. Those people are ideologues. They don't care about the truth. Interesting that three people use the same talking point. Oh, it's a job interview, therefore there's no presumption of innocence. Presumption of innocence isn't just in a court of law. It's the basis of Anglo-American society, of our civilization. The idea that he didn't show the requisite temperament. For 31 hours, he showed exactly the temperament that was needed for a Supreme Court justice. And then, when he was slandered, he showed what an innocent man does when he reacts to being called a serial rapist and accused of attempted murder when he is innocent.
And drugging women systematically, almost on a weekly basis. Dan Bongino.
You know, Sean, we've crossed the Rubicon here. The other side wants chaos. But here's the problem, Sean. I want your audience and you to smile a little bit tonight. The left isn't ready for the storm they think they want, Sean. These people are soft. One of those guys had a man bun. These guys have been, and women have been brought up in educational institutions. They've been coddled. They've had people kiss their butts.
I don't want to get dragged into one thing. I'm not criticizing you. I'm just saying here, I don't want to go after how people look. I want to deal with substance here. The substance is, do you believe in the presumption of innocence? And many on that video said no. I don't care what they dress or how they wear their hair. They said no.
Sean, They want chaos. Chaos is the opposite of due process. What I'm trying to get at here is these people are soft. This entire ideology that our emotions matter, law, reason, rule of law, none of that matters. They've been coddled. You understand? They've been coddled their entire time through college, through their educational institutions. Liberalism has been the default position. They're not ready for the fight ahead. We are. We know how to exercise
in 33
law.
days, the American people.
Sean,
if you listen to the media, that party of Schumer, the ones that I would argue initiated this belief that Judge Kavanaugh is guilty by accusation, they want power. Nancy Pelosi wants to be Speaker. Chucky wants to be the head of the Senate. Yeah, Dr. Gorka.
Sean, the sleeping giant has awoken. There are people, millions, that have been angered by the way Judge Kavanaugh was treated. And even if they didn't vote for Donald Trump, you can bet they're going to vote Republican in 33 days.
You believe that, Dan?
I do. I think they've pulled the pin on an electoral grenade they can't possibly put back in. We may have a little bit of trouble on the House side, but I think the Senate, the Democrats are regretting every minute of this right now.
But remember, if they get the House and Nancy Pelosi Speaker and Maxine Waters chairs committees, they want to impeach, they want to rescind the tax cuts, they want to open borders, eliminate ICE, they want to keep Obamacare. This is just the beginning. All right, thank you both. We got to end there. We appreciate your time. When we come back, we're going to expose more liberal double standards. And why isn't the left in this country demanding an FBI into allegations against Keith Ellison? And is any of these people ever going to stick up for Juanita Broderick? Oh, that's right. The left has selective moral outrage. No FBI investigation for Juanita Broderick, Kathleen Willey, Paula Jones. Interesting. With reaction to the ongoing Kavanaugh confirmation saga, president of the New York Civil Rights Coalition, former vice president of the ACLU, Michael Myers. You saw the ad we played last night, Michael. For what, since 1981 to 2005, you were a member, high-ranking member of the ACLU?
I was on the national board of the American Civil Liberties Union. I was also a voting member most of those years on the ACLU National Executive Committee.
How do you feel?
I was proudest of the ACLU and the ACLU resisted fashion when it stood up to the mob. Now the ACLU has become the mob, and it has become what it is not supposed to be. It's supposed to stand up to the mob. It's supposed to stand for freedom and individual liberty. It's supposed to stand for the presumption of innocence. It doesn't make assumptions. It makes the presumption that a person is presumed to be innocent unless he is proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. In terms of civil matter, the person is innocent unless there's a preponderance of the evidence.
What happened,
now,
Michael? What happened to your organization?
The ACLU now is hijacked by the lunatic left. They don't believe in process. They don't believe in due process. They don't believe in free speech anymore. They don't believe in anything other than the resistance. Or as opposed to resisting fashion, they have become part of the resistance movement.
Where does this end, Michael? Do civil libertarians come back to where you were, or do you now join people like me, which I know will give send shockwaves through your spine?
Well, let's put it this way: the ACLU has become like the NAACP. Once you lose control of your board, once you don't have no civil libertarians on the board, you don't have a civil liberties organization anymore. And you have people who are bottom line lunatics in terms of the left. They want, quote unquote, justice. So if a woman accuses a man, the mere accusation is enough for the ACLU. This has never been a principle of civil liberties. You can't accuse somebody and don't expect evidence to show that person is guilty of something. And you can't presume a person is